Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I know it's been a long time, and I'm sorry about that. We'll talk about it later. But we have some big changes coming up for the new Valorant Champions Tour, that is the VCT 2027 season. And today I want to talk about all of those changes, what they actually mean. So let's take a deep dive into what these changes are. So I want to first start off by talking about the current scenario, that is the tier 2 system, and how Riot have fixed it with more regional representation and support for partner teams. So let's dive into it. Now, before we get into all of this, let's first try and understand what the scenario is currently. So, if you want to get into champions right now, what are the requirements? You would have to be part of a tier 1 org, or you'd have to win Ascension so that you can play on the VCT stage. Then you would play your kickoff, stage 1, stage 2. Then you'd have to qualify for masters or champions, and then you would go ahead and win it if you're good enough. Now, to even get into tier 1, we have tier 2, which is a mess, which is what Riot is trying to fix. So, previously, to get into tier 2, let's say you wanna be a pro player and you wanna win VCT. What would you do? You would play ranked, try to get to good ranks, Radiant, whatever, top 100. Then maybe you would get noticed by some org and picked up in a tier 2 org. Then you would play tier 2 league matches in your league. Let's say you're from India, you would play in the South Asia region. And if you win that league, the split 1, split 2, split 3, all that, you would go qualify for the Ascension tournament. Now, this tournament would have the best teams from each region. So the best teams from Korea, from Japan, from South Asia, Southeast Asia. So 8 to 10 such teams would then compete for one single spot, and that spot would last for 2 years. That's it. Then you would have to go through Ascension again if your team doesn't perform well. There were a different set of rules for that entirely. But the bottom line here is this is a painstakingly long and unfair path, because let's say you and your team got to Ascension but did not win. So, what's next for you? You would have to wait another whole year for the Ascension tournament to happen, with no guarantee that your team could actually get a spot in VCT. And there's only one spot. Well, now there's technically two, but whatever, there's limited spots. So, for someone like you, this is not very open. This is not very direct, not fair. It's too many layers you have to go through just to be able to play on the big stage. So, in order to eliminate all of this, Riot has completely removed tier 2. So, now we no longer have tier 2, and instead we have open qualifiers. Now, the teams which would otherwise play in tier 2 would now go into open qualifiers along with other teams from Premier, from other leagues. It is an open for all qualifier, and these are now regional. We will talk about what regional means later in the video, because Riot has changed what regional means. Regional no longer means your APAC or your Americas. That is no longer what region means. Region, these are now territories, and these territories are divided into regions. We'll talk about all that later. Anyway, so this is the biggest change. So now instead of stage 1, stage 2, we have cups. Instead of tier 2 plus the group stages, we have open qualifiers, and we have masters and champions like they were before. Okay, so now what does partnership mean in the new season for Riot? It will no longer be a 4-year, it will now be a 2-year contract starting from 2027. So we will have fresh contracts, and maybe all teams that are currently partnered won't be partnered. That will be interesting to watch. And those who are not already an established team, they can also apply. And this would be the criteria for the application. Now, what advantages do partner teams get in the tournaments? Would be the payment, performance bonus, all that. So basically, if your team performs well, you get high viewership, you get paid more. And team capsule, the usual this is the main thing, direct seeding. So the open qualifiers that we talked about earlier, where the so-called tier 2 teams would play and then get shortlisted into, let's say, 5 or whatever number of teams, the partner teams would compete in the later stages of these qualifiers. So they have an advantage, but it's also not like they have a direct ticket into the cups. They still have to fight their way into the cups, but it's not like they have to go through 200 tier 2 teams in a single elim bracket and then qualify into the cups. No, they would directly be seeded into the later rounds in the qualifiers. So that's the advantage that partner teams would get. Now, as for the open qualifiers, the qualification paths would be anything including community tournaments, partner events, collegiate events, premier, and more, because this would vary from region to region, and Riot will announce this later. Now, you may ask, why is Riot doing all this? What's the point? Basically, everything should be a tournament. Why? So that every match should carry weight, so that Riot gets more views and more money. Let's be real. Next thing is the path to global events should be open. So if a group of, let's say, 5 friends decide that, oh, we could go and win VCT, the path is now more open to them. So they don't have to go through all the Ascension trouble, all the tier 2, none of that. They can try and qualify for the open qualifiers and they can make it to champs if they're good enough. And obviously, there will be more tournaments, so more locations will be visited. Hopefully, they visit India. Who knows? Now, the next most important thing about these global events, or the path to these global events, which is the same as what we have always had, Masters and Champions. So, the biggest change are these. So, our big four, Pacific, Americas, EMEA, and China, are now territories. And each territory has its own regions. And each region will have certain number of slots for the number of partner teams and the number of open qualifier teams. This will be announced later though. And it will be interesting because that's going to be very controversial, because it's going to be interesting how Riot decides which region gets how many slots. So let's say you are PaperX. You would fall under the Southeast Asia category and you would be a partner team, because obviously PaperX is an established organization. So you would compete in the later stages of SEA Open Qualifiers along with the teams that came in through Premier or whatever. And then the best of each of these regions would compete in cups, or at the beginning of the year, it's called kickoff, but kind of the same thing. The format would be different. Now, all of these open qualifiers would be online, and the other events such as cups, kickoff, masters would all be online. Now, let's just talk about what each territory consists of. So, Pacific consists of Southeast Asia, which would mean PaperX, teams like PaperX, Team Secret, all that. Japan would mean straightforward DFM, Zeta, if they do get partnered, that is. Korea, your T1, your DRX, Nongshim, all that. And South Asia, for now, we only have global esports, but it would be interesting to know how many slots South Asia has. So now, if you're a partner team, like let's say PaperX, you would probably fall under the Southeast Asia region of the Pacific territory. Then, so on and so forth, all the current teams would fall under one category each, or one region each for each territory. So Sen would be here, for example, MIB would be under Brazil, and Crew would be under Latin America. It's interesting to note that Turkey has its own region in EMEA. Then we have MENA or MENA, which is Middle East and North Africa, and we just have Europe. And China has only one region, which is understood. So in total, Riot says that there will be 20 plus tournaments and they'll go to 16 plus different cities. So let's just try to understand the events. We have kickoff plus cups from 2 cups, that is stage 1, stage 2 for each territory. So 8 cups, then 4 tournament from kickoff, Also, we have Masters, Masters 2, then Champions, and we'll have other events such as Game Changers, etc. So, total there will be 20 plus tournaments. So, basically, you have matches to watch throughout the year, and watch party streamers are not going to be able to sleep. Here is the new season structure where the qualifiers will be online, then you go into kickoff or cup depending on what time of the year it is. This will be international or inter-regional within the territory, whatever they call it, and then you qualify for masters. Now the interesting thing to note is that qualifiers will be happening in Q4 of the previous year. So that means Q4 of this year, which is 2026. So open qualifiers are going to start later this year. So basically, these are all the changes. I don't know if I mentioned already, but the age limit has been decreased from 18 to 17 years. So that's one more thing that makes the tournament even more open to anyone and everyone all around the world. So basically, everything is a tournament. That's the bottom line. Anyway, all of these changes seem very similar to what we had in 2021, but with the addition of partner teams. I personally think it's a good change. It cleans up the mess that was there with Tier 2, Ascension, all that, and it brings new opportunities for everyone. As a pro player, though, it's gonna be a very hectic year. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about these changes. I will try to make more videos more consistently. Hopefully, I can live stream soon so that you can see my bronze Valorant gameplay. Anyway, take care, guys. Hope you like the video. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. The link for this article is in the description. Please do subscribe, like, share, all that. Thank you. Bye bye.